This video is going to demonstrate how to upload firmware to your UBA bill acceptor in your GVG GM. The bill acceptor we're working with right now is a UBA 24. When you receive your firmware from the service department, you'll note the version of the firmware to which you'll be updating. To load the firmware into your Blue Wave flash programmer device, insert the SD card into the side of the device and click it to seat it firmly. Once it's seated, turn the Blue Wave device on by pushing the toggle up. You'll hear a chime, and the middle LED light was briefly orange to indicate that the firmware is being uploaded from the SD card into the memory cache of the Blue Wave device. Once your two LEDs are green, this Blue Wave device is ready to program the firmware on your UBA 24. The second step in this process to update the UBA 24 is to fully open the doors on your cabinet. Make sure your lower monitor is lifted so that you can access both the backplane and the BA head itself. We know this is a UBA 24 because it's clearly marked on top of the BA. We need to unplug the USB that powers the BA from the backplane. This green tie on the BA cord indicates that this is the power for the BA. Please remove the USB from the backplane. Now we are ready to upload the firmware from the Blue Wave device to our UBA. Earlier, in preparation for uploading the firmware, we unplugged the USB that powers the BA from the backplane. Now we're going to plug our FireWire into the face of the UBA. Once we plug that in, we get a green light on the top indicating that we're ready to press load to load the firmware from the Blue Wave device to the UBA. Press load. The orange light indicates that the firmware is being uploaded. It will flash red and green to indicate that it is in the middle of the update process. Please be patient. The red and green light may seem to blink for a long time. When it's done, it will turn solid green to indicate that the process is finished. Once you see 3 green LED lights, this indicates that the firmware has been successfully uploaded from the Blue Wave device to your UBA. Go ahead and carefully remove your connector from the face of your UBA. Turn off your Blue Wave device. We are now going to plug the UBA's USB back into the connector on the backplane. Once the BA successfully power cycles, we power cycle the machine as a whole by turning off the power here. It's important to wait about 30 seconds to let all of the logic wind down before turning the machine power back on. Now we turn the power back on at the main switch. Once your machine has fully loaded, we are going to compare the firmware version from your chip with what the machine says is installed on the BA. Remove your chip, turn your audit key, which is the top key, and you'll see the machine summary for the bill acceptor. The version is v2.78-73 for this example. You'll see that it matches the card. If they do match, you are done. If they don't, watch the video again or contact service for more help. Once this is removed, we're going to remove the BA head. To do so, you need to push gently down on the release bar. Put your hand behind the BA itself, slide out of the tracks. Now we'll take our UBA to a workbench to safely finish the next steps. We need to remove the dust guard from the bottom of the BA assembly. To do this, we need to carefully unplug the bezel power from the face of the BA. Unplug this gently and move it out of your way. Next, we're going to open the face of the BA by pushing down on this blue lever, and that will open. To easily remove the dust guard, place the BA flat, push gently against the dust guard to get it to move, and then remove it fully. This is a good chance to get any dust you might find on the dust guard off. You can either do this with your hand or a cloth. Set that aside. When updating the firmware on a UBA 24, we must remove the EEPROM and replace it with the new one that was sent to you with your software. To do so, have your BA so that it faces you and the text on your EEPROM is easily read. Next, you'll need an EEPROM puller to safely remove the EEPROM from its socket. Because EEPROMs are delicate, it's best to be gentle and patient when removing or dealing with EEPROMs. Anyone who has worked with them knows that their legs bend easily. To fit the EEPROM puller in between these plastic fins, you need to depress it slightly by pulling up on the black handle. You're going to seat the EEPROM puller against the top of the EEPROM. When you can't push anymore, gently, it's seated. Next, you're going to pull up on the black handle. I usually use two hands because it's easier to get a feel for if it's coming out safely or not. Pull gently until you feel the EEPROM release, and then continue pulling up and out of the socket. To safely put your EEPROM down, place it on your work table gently, release the black handle, and it's out. Next, you're going to use your new EEPROM to replace the one that you've just taken out. Before you insert your EEPROM, double check by visually verifying that your legs are relatively straight. You can do this by holding it up and giving it a good long look. You want to check and be sure that there are not large gaps in between your legs. 16 on each side. Once you've visually verified that your EEPROM is ready for seating, you want to be sure that the divot on your EEPROM is facing left, that you are able to read the text, because that ensures that you're going to put it in the socket correctly. If you'll note, on the board, it's very difficult to see, but there's a socket cutout here that shows you that's the way your divot should face. To seat your EEPROM, you want to be sure to get all 32 legs resting comfortably in their socket. An easy way to do this is just to set it lightly on top of the socket. If it wiggles, it's not seated. If you have wiggle, you need to figure out, either using a loop or a magnifying glass, which legs are not going into their socket holes appropriately. You may also use gently a small screwdriver or other tool that's blunt very carefully to move those legs into position. Once you feel that your EEPROM is seated, go ahead and press down to fully lock the EEPROM in place. It's best to push on both ends of your EEPROM to make sure that it seats correctly. As always with EEPROMs, patience equals success. You can't hurry 32 legs. Once your EEPROM is successfully placed, visually inspect your legs. Make sure that none of them are bent or bowed out, or kneed, as we say. Okay, from here we'll go ahead and replace the dust guard. Open the face of the BA, put the pointy ends in first. They slide right over the top of the board, and they slide in between the two metal axles. Once that is seated, we can gently close the face of the BA and plug the bezel power back into the BA. If you can, try not to press on the pins. Now we're ready to put our BA back in our machine so that we can upload the firmware. Go ahead and reseat your BA head by gliding it along the guides.